This video is in continuation of my previous video which I uploaded few days back, that this is how you earn a good spouse from God's hands. I have used these scripture verses in my previous videos, but these ones can be applied for marriage also. Now, marriage is not a painful process, but we do read in the scripture, if you're a married one, you will go through some or the other problem or trouble here and there. But it's not a painful process incomplete, because when God created marriage, He created some space inside a man's heart and in a woman's heart for marriage. So we automatically have some space and desire inside us to be married, to have a spouse, to have a companion. There is automatically a lot of desire inside a woman's heart to be desired by her husband, and in a man's heart to have a companion in life. So as human beings, we are already carrying a space and a desire within us for marriage. And since we have space and desire for marriage within us, there's a lot of peace and blessing in it. But so many people fail to see it. And marriage is God's will and God's plan. He wants to see His son and His daughter together. When Adam and Eve sinned and they were disobedient to God, they were punished for it immediately. But marriage incomplete was not a punishment. It was not created as a painful process. Yes, it is going to have a little bit of troubles and problems here and there, but it is not a painful process incomplete. One of the things which I shared in my previous video was, you have someone as a spouse who is kind, polite, sweet, humble, considerate, thoughtful, mindful. That person is going to touch your soul. A beautiful or a charming spouse is going to touch your mind and your heart. But a person who has these good qualities, that person is going to touch your soul. So you need a soul satisfying spouse, not someone who's just making your mind and heart happy but crushing your spirit at the same time. If you have a spouse who is paying attention to their flesh, they're charming and they're beautiful, at the same time they have all the good qualities also, that's like an add-on. But if they are not paying attention to their flesh but they have those good qualities, you are blessed. Even then, there's a lot of blessing and a lot of peace there. But since we human beings are like aesthetic and we pay attention to the flesh also, we tend to see only the outside and we ignore the good qualities. So it's very important that you're taking this decision of marriage with a lot of wisdom, insight and understanding, and not that you're paying attention to the flesh alone and ignoring the spirit, but you're also paying attention to the good qualities that a human being has. Now, these things don't apply to a narcissist because they care about the fleshy things. They want all the fleshy things, the fleshy stuff in their life, and it's very important that you are careful whom you're listening to. Also, they are the hater of the opposite human being. So once the love bombing and everything is done, they will abuse the same person after some time. When it comes to the scripture verses, the first one is that God has given us a lot of potential within us to be kind, polite, sweet, humble, considerate towards your spouse. And this is something which we read in the book of Ecclesiastes, that God has created mankind upright, but they have gone in search of many schemes. Now, God has already given us the roadmap. When it comes to marriage, be considerate to your wife, respect your husband, respect your wife. Marriage should be honored by all. Marriage bed be kept pure. When it comes to the husband, they love their wives the same way they love their own bodies. These things exist within us. If they weren't existing within us, He wouldn't have spoken all of these things. So He has given us a lot of potential to push ourselves and be kind and sweet to our spouse. It's just that we choose not to be. So again, going back to the scripture verse, that God created mankind upright, but they have gone in search of many schemes. And if you turn your scripture to the book of Micah chapter 2 verse 6, God says, "Do not my words do good to the ones whose ways are upright." Now, when it comes to marriage, this one actually gets connected to my previous video, that if you're a good human being, you will receive a good human being as a spouse. If you're a wicked one, you will get a wicked one. If you're upright and your ways are good when it comes to marriage, you will also receive a spouse from God's hands who is upright and whose ways are good when it comes to marriage. And God is actually talking about all the good things that exists in a human being as a man or as a woman, towards their marriage, the journey of marriage, your conduct in marriage, how you are, what you are. Are you really interested in pleasing people around instead of pleasing your own spouse? Are you interested in outsiders more than your own spouse? Are you like dressing up to attract some other man or other woman instead of, making attempts to impress your own, husband or wife? The list goes on, and I've shared many things in the previous video also. The next scripture verse is the book of Jeremiah chapter 6 verse 16. Ask where the good way is and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. Again, when you apply this one in marriage, ask what the right way is when it comes to marriage. God has already given us the roadmap. He's already given us the complete direction as to how you should be as a husband and how you should be as a wife. Ask what the right way is and walk in it. And once you start walking in it, you will find someone who's very compatible with you, who's very understanding, polite and sweet. And that's going to give a lot of satisfaction to your soul. So you follow the right thing in God's eyes, and eventually you earn a good spouse from God's hands. And the end result is that your soul is very peaceful and very happy, because when you have a spouse who is abusive and toxic, there's a lot of pain that you go through. You're walking on eggshells, there is crushed spirit, a lot of pain, a lot of tears, a lot of crying. But if you have the right person by your side, there's a lot of peace within you and in the home also. The next scripture verse is from the book of Isaiah chapter 1 verse 19. If you're willing and obedient, you will eat the good things of the land. Now when the scripture says that you're willing and obedient, that means you're willing and obedient towards God's ways when it comes to marriage. You are not being anything that you want to be, but you are that kind of a person as the scripture is teaching us. What the scripture is asking from us, that be a man like this, be a husband like this, and be a wife like this, that is what you are following in life. So you're very consciously making a decision to be obedient to God's words, what He's wanting from you as a husband or as a wife. And what you receive from God's hands is the good thing. And that is the good things existing in the opposite person. Like we shared in the previous video, all the good qualities which the opposite person, your spouse, will be having. And that is something which you will earn from God's hands. That your spouse is kind, polite, sweet, humble, considerate, etc. So basically on this land, on this planet, God is going to pick one for you who's going to be a good one, and He's going to give that person as your spouse. You have literally earned a good spouse from God's hands because you are willing and obedient to follow God's words in your life. So it's all about working on your mind, working on your heart, and building the roots in your soul, about following the right thing when it comes to marriage. And if you have a lot of hatred and contempt for your spouse, you're going to receive some certain things in your spouse which are unpleasant and which are very painful to your mind and your heart and to your soul also, while you are in this journey of marriage. So all you have to do is train yourself, and eventually you're going to receive a very good thing from God's hands also.